I slip through the wall and I cannot get back. A horror story, the moist towelette. I do not know what day it is. I want to tell you that up front, because it is the detail that will bother you the most and I want to get it out of the way. I know what day it was when I entered. I know the exact moment with complete clarity, the way you remember things that mark a before and an after. What I do not know is how many days have passed since then. Time does not behave the way it should in here. It moves, I think, but the evidence for its passage is strange and unreliable, and I have stopped trying to track it in any rigorous way. I am writing this account on blank paper from a filing cabinet in a room on what I have been calling level 4. I am writing with a ballpoint pen I found in a desk drawer. I am writing it because the act of writing it makes me feel like a person who has a future, which is a thing I need to feel right now. And because if someone finds this, I need them to understand what happened and what I know, so that they can either help me or learn from me. Let me tell you exactly what happened. My name is not important. What is important is that I was an ordinary person doing an ordinary thing on an ordinary evening, and I am now somewhere that should not exist, and I have been here for longer than I can accurately measure, and I am still looking for a way out. The shortcut. The Henderson office complex sits on the north side of the city, a large block of commercial buildings that have been mostly vacant since the major tenants relocated several years ago. The ground floor of the main building has an indoor public footpath that connects one street to another, cutting several minutes off the walk to the bus stop on the far side. Locals know about it. I had used it dozens of times, maybe more. It is the kind of shortcut that becomes so routine you stop seeing it. You just walk through because the body knows the way. It was a Tuesday evening in late autumn. Cold outside, that particular dry cold that comes in after the sun drops and the city exhales. Inside the building, the lights were on economy mode, the long fluorescent tubes doing their best in a muted, yellowish way that made everything look slightly bleached. The floors were linoleum. The walls were painted the particular institutional off-white that commercial buildings seem to agree on universally. The corridor smelled of old carpet and the faint chemical trace of industrial cleaning fluid. I had one earbud in, music on low. I was thinking about what I was going to have for dinner. I was tired in the ordinary way of a person at the end of an ordinary working day. I turned left at the junction of the main corridor and the side passage, as I always did, toward the fire exit that led out onto Mercer Street. The passage was longer than I remembered. I did not notice this immediately. Why would I? You do not time your progress through a corridor you have walked 100 times. You walk and you expect and you arrive. But after what should have been 20 seconds, I had not arrived, and I kept walking, and I had still not arrived. The passage extended in front of me exactly as it had always done. Same linoleum, same off-white walls, same fluorescent tube overhead, humming with the particular frequency of tubes in old commercial buildings. I slowed, I stopped, I turned around. The passage extended behind me in exactly the same way it extended in front. The same width, the same ceiling height, the same everything. There was no junction visible behind me, no corner, no door, no sign of the turn I had made at the end of the main corridor. I stood very still, and I did the thing a rational person does when confronted with something that should not be possible. I looked for the error in my own perception. I had clearly taken a wrong turn somewhere and become confused in a building whose layout I thought I knew. I turned back the way I had been heading, and I walked briskly, with purpose, certain that the fire exit door would appear at any moment. It did not appear. I walked for what I estimate conservatively was 7 or 8 minutes. The corridor continued in both directions without variation. The floor was seamless. The ceiling was seamless. The walls were perfectly, impossibly uniform. I took out my phone. 0 signal bars, not low, not weak. Absolute 0, the kind that means no towers within detectable range, which inside a city is not a thing that happens. I activated the torch. It worked. I held the phone up and I looked at the screen and I said very quietly to myself, "Okay, think." I called out, "Hello, is anyone here?" My voice returned to me flat and absorbed, without the natural echo of an enclosed space, as though the sound was being taken in rather than reflected. I have since learned that this quality of acoustics is one of the most consistent features of this place, and it is one of the things that is hardest to get used to. I kept walking. I tried every door I found. Most were locked. The corridor continued. The rooms. The first door that opened delivered me into a small office. Empty. Completely, perfectly empty except for a desk, a chair pushed in neatly, a filing cabinet, and a window. I went directly to the window. It showed an interior courtyard that was entirely dark, not dimly lit, not poorly lit, dark in a way that had no ambient source, as though the darkness itself was solid. The window was sealed and did not open. I pressed my hands against the glass and looked into the courtyard and saw nothing looking back, which was good, because in the time I have spent here I have learned that not all of the courtyards are empty. On the desk face down I almost missed it, a yellow sticky note. I turned it over. In blue ballpoint in neat capital letters, "Do not go deeper. Turn around. There is still time." I read those words several times. I'm not sure what I expected a note in an impossible place to say, but I did not expect that. It implied two things. First, that someone else had been here. Second, that this person had believed there was a worse option than where they currently were, and that it lay in a direction called deeper. I went back into the corridor and I kept walking. This was a mistake. The note was right. There was still time then. I do not know with certainty that there is still time now. I found more doors, most locked. A few open into rooms that were all variants of the same template, empty, clean, arranged as though recently vacated. In one room a half-drunk mug of coffee sat on the desk, room temperature. In another a gray cardigan was folded over the back of a chair. In a third room, pushed into the corner near the baseboard, a single child's shoe, small, red Velcro straps, just the one. I left that room without spending long in it. I found the first stairwell after what I believe was 2 hours of walking. It descended and it ascended. I could not see the ceiling above it or the floor below. I counted steps going up, 112. The stairwell deposited me onto another corridor. Same linoleum, same off-white walls, same fluorescent hum, same impossible, featureless extension in both directions. I sat down on the floor of that corridor. I gave myself a counted 60 seconds in which I allowed myself to feel everything I was feeling. The fear, the confusion, the very strong urge to simply stop moving and wait for something to change. I counted to 60. I stood back up. I started walking. That was how I have approached this entire time. 60 seconds to feel it. Then you keep moving. What I have learned. I have been here long enough to learn things. I am going to share them with you in the order I learned them, because the order they are learned affects whether you survive long enough to learn the next one. The first thing, and the most important by a significant margin: when a space feels geometrically wrong, leave immediately. Do not investigate. Do not rationalize. Do not tell yourself that corridors sometimes seem longer than expected because of the lighting or the monotony. When your spatial sense fires a signal that something does not match, that signal is correct. Your spatial memory is an extremely accurate instrument, and it is telling you something true. The moment you feel that wrongness, you need to turn around and walk back out the exact way you came in. Quickly but without running, because running means panic and panic means you stop thinking. And in a place like this, the only tool you have is your ability to think. I did not do this. I kept walking when every internal system I have was trying to tell me that something was wrong. I told myself it was imagination, and I kept walking, and now I am here. The second thing, there are sounds, not voices. Let me be very clear about this distinction. A voice has shape and rhythm and intention. It begins and ends and carries information. What I have occasionally heard from below or above or from a direction I cannot locate does not have these qualities. It resembles a voice the way a photograph resembles a person. Superficially similar in some respects, fundamentally different in the ways that matter. I do not respond to these sounds. I do not try to find their origin. I have made this a rule, and I intend to keep it permanently. The third thing, the windows are not all the same. Some rooms have windows that show the gray sky. Others show the dark courtyard. I do not enter rooms with the dark courtyard windows anymore. The darkness in those courtyards is not ordinary darkness. It has texture that ordinary darkness does not have, and if you look at it for long enough, it seems to register your attention. I noticed this relatively early, and I am grateful I noticed it when I did. The fourth thing, there are at least 7 levels. I have found 7 distinct stairwells. The architecture of every level is structurally identical, though the contents of the rooms vary. There are filing cabinets full of blank white paper. There is a photocopier on level 2 that functions perfectly and produces only warm blank sheets on demand. There are multiple break rooms with working kettles and instant coffee and small cartons of UHT milk, with expiry dates printed on them that are years in the future. I stay in a break room on level 4 most of the time now. It has a window showing the gray sky. The kettle works. The coffee is bad instant coffee, but it is hot, and it is familiar, and familiarity has a value here that it does not have on the other side. The break room has a clock on the wall that stopped at 7:43, which may have been when the building closed for the last time or may mean nothing at all. The fifth thing, I marked 2 stairwells as do not use after an experience on the stairwell connecting levels 3 and 4. I heard something below me on the stairs. I called out. It stopped moving. Then it came up the stairs toward me with a sound that I found I could not categorize, a rhythm that did not match any gate I recognized. I went back through the stairwell door and blocked it with a filing cabinet. That was some time ago. The filing cabinet is still in place. What I still believe. I am writing this on paper from the cabinet in the 3rd office along the eastern corridor of level 4, using the pen I have been using for all of these notes. I am going to leave this paper on the desk in that office because it is the most prominent place I can think of. I still believe there is a way out of this place. I believe this because of the sticky note on that first desk. Someone was here before me and they left a warning rather than a map or a detailed account, which means they were in a hurry, which means they had somewhere to hurry toward. They got out. The geometry of this place, strange as it is, was navigated by someone once. It can be navigated again. I think about the moment of entry constantly. The turn at the end of the main corridor on a Tuesday evening in autumn. I have tried to remember every detail of those seconds, whether there was any change in the quality of the light, any shift in the acoustics, any physical sensation I registered and overrode. A slight change in air pressure, perhaps. A moment where the sound of the fluorescent tubes changed pitch. Something that my body noticed and my mind overrode, because I was tired and thinking about dinner, and moving through a space I thought I knew. I have been mapping this place on the blank paper. I have marked every safe stairwell. I have marked every break room. I have marked the rooms with windows that show the dark courtyard, and I have given them a different symbol on my map. I am conducting circuits, level by level, looking for something different. A door that was not there before. A corridor I have not yet walked. An exit. I keep the maps in the break room. If I do not make it out and someone else finds this place, the maps will be on the table under the window with the gray sky on level 4. If you are reading this and you are inside this place, you are not alone. Someone else has been here and has kept moving and has mapped what they could and has not given up. Keep moving. Find the break room with the gray sky. Mark the stairwells that are safe. Do not listen to the sound. If you are reading this and you are still on the other side, in the world where corridors end where they are supposed to end, and the sky changes from day to night, and the clock on the wall keeps its time, I need you to understand one thing. There are buildings in this world where the architecture is wrong, not derelict, not haunted in any sense that cinema has prepared you for. Wrong, in the way that a thing can be almost exactly right and simultaneously completely wrong. A corridor that is 5% longer than the building that contains it should allow. A room with a window showing a sky you cannot locate from outside. A stairwell with no clear top and no clear bottom. When you feel the wrongness of a space, and you will feel it as something immediate and specific that is not imagination or tiredness, you need to leave. Not in a moment. Now. Turn around and walk back out the way you came, using every step in reverse, and do not stop until you are outside the building and on the street and under the real sky. Do not be curious. Do not investigate. Do not try to understand what is happening. Just leave. I should have left. I know this with a clarity that has only increased the longer I have been here. I should have turned around the moment the corridor felt wrong, and I should have walked back out into the cold Tuesday evening and gone home and made my dinner and thought nothing more about it. Instead, I kept walking. I am still here. The coffee is still hot. The gray sky outside the window has not changed. I am still looking. Update: I do not know when this is relative to the previous entries. I found another person's notes. I want to document this carefully because it changes what I know about this place in ways that matter. On level 6, in a room I had not previously entered, I found a stack of papers on a desk, handwritten in ink in a neat script that was not mine. The papers describe the same architecture I have been living inside: the corridors, the stairwells, the break rooms with gray sky windows, the locked doors. The person who wrote them described the same acoustic quality I have been trying to articulate: the way sound is absorbed rather than reflected. They described finding the sticky note on the first desk, and they described, as I did, the instinct to go back the way they came and the impossibility of finding the way back. They had also found the stairwells I now mark as unsafe. They had had a similar experience on those stairs and made the same decision I made. Their notes end without resolution. The last page says only, "Still looking, still day, still here." I do not know if this person found their way out. Their notes are old enough that the ink has yellowed slightly at the edges, which on ordinary paper would suggest months or years. I do not know how time and paper behave in this place, and I am not going to assume they behave the way they do outside. What I know is that I am not the first, and I am not alone in a historical sense, even if I am alone in a present one. Someone was here before the person who left the sticky note. That person wrote 50 pages of detailed observation, and they were still looking when the notes ended. I have added a note to their stack on fresh paper. I found your notes in November by my best estimate. I am on level 4. I am also still looking. The geometry. I want to try once more to describe the geometry of this place, because language fails me each time, and I keep returning to the attempt because I think it matters. The corridors are not infinite. This is the most important thing I have worked out, and it took longer than it should have. They feel infinite because there is no visible terminus, no corner, no variation that your eye can use to estimate distance. But they are not infinite. I know this because I have walked corridors that eventually deliver me to a stairwell or a junction, and while those distances are longer than any corridor in an ordinary building should be, they are finite. The building has edges in some sense. I have simply not found them. The rooms are real rooms with real furniture and real objects in them. The coffee I make is real coffee in the sense that it is warm and it tastes like coffee, and it provides the small psychological comfort of a familiar thing. The paper I write on is real paper. The pen works and runs down gradually as I use it, which is how pens behave in the real world. The physical rules of this place are consistent with the physical rules of the world I came from, with the exception of the geometry. The geometry is wrong in one very specific way. The spatial relationships between parts of the building do not correspond to any consistent map. Level 4 is accessible from level 3 via the safe stairwell on the eastern side. But if you descend from level 4 to level 3 on the safe western stairwell, you do not arrive on the same level 3. I have verified this carefully and repeatedly. The building's levels do not stack consistently. They connect, but they connect the way points in a network connect, not the way floors in a building connect. This has implications for navigation that I am still working through. What it means practically: there may be more to this place than vertical exploration will find. The connections between levels may be the key. The stairwells that feel random may not be random. They may be a system, and systems can be understood. I have stopped making circuits and I have started mapping connections. Every stairwell I use, I note which level 3 I arrive on when I descend from level 4, and which level 5 I arrive on when I ascend. The pattern is emerging slowly. It is not random. There is a structure here. I believe this is important. I believe this is how the person who left the sticky note got out. I am still here, but I am closer to understanding why than I was before. If you find this place, if you find yourself in a corridor that is longer than it should be, if you find the break room on level 4 and my notes on the table under the gray sky window, The stairwells are a network, not a stack. Map the connections. Follow the pattern. There is a structure, and the structure can be solved. I am still here, but I am working on it.